All right, let's jump right into this explainer and decode the fast-approaching MPSI mains results. I know there's a ton of anticipation, a fair amount of anxiety, and just a sea of raw data floating around right now. So our goal today isn't to just drone on and read off a list of precise numbers. Instead, we're going to give you the data so you can actually analyze the trends yourself, figure out exactly where you stand, and honestly, know exactly what your next moves need to be.
And hey, the most absolutely critical piece of context here, it's speed. This entire recruitment process is moving at warp speed, and the final results are expected to drop before the 20th of this month. Yeah, that is right around the corner. So if you've been waiting for a sign to start paying attention, consider this a giant, flashing neon sign.
Here is what we're covering in our explainer today. We've got the ticking clock, safe scores by category, the 3-mark multiplier, predicting the unpredictable, and finally, your next action steps.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the ticking clock. Let's get into exactly why time is suddenly of the essence.
If you've been following this cycle at all, you know the response sheets came out unusually quickly. And now, the final results are being put on the exact same fast track. So why the huge rush? Well, the authorities are actively clearing the way for a brand new SI recruitment cycle, which, is fantastic news for the system as a whole, but for you, it means you literally will not be given much time to prep for your physical test once these results are officially out. That window is going to be incredibly tight.
Moving right along to Section 2, safe scores by category. Let's break down where you actually stand.
So the crazy thing is how wildly the safe zones vary depending on your specific demographic. For unreserved or general category candidates, a robust score of 400 plus puts you in a highly safe zone. Honestly, at that point, clearing the mains is practically guaranteed. Now moving down a bit, an economically weaker section score of around 381 is borderline, but it's squarely in the expected cutoff zone. But wait, what about the scheduled tribe category? The expected cutoff drops all the way down to around 250 marks. So if you're pulling scores of 272 or 285, you are in an extremely favorable position, and seriously, you should be prepping for the physical right now.
But on the flip side, what happens if you didn't quite hit those upper benchmarks? Say you're a general category candidate sitting at 344 marks. Well, currently, the data considers that a pretty difficult position to be in. The competition up top is just super dense. But hold on, do not tune out just yet, because as we'll see in a few minutes, certain demographic wildcards, specifically gender, might significantly flip this reality on its head. Also, just a quick aside, we're only looking at a high-level snapshot here to understand the broader trends. If you're wondering about exact pinpoint figures for every single demographic, like OBC and SC categories, you don't have to guess. You can find the complete analytical PDF with all the exhaustive data over on the Toppers Temple app and their Telegram channel.
Okay, let's jump into Section 3, the 3-mark multiplier. This right here is why precise predictions are just so tricky.
Think about the sheer math analysts are wrestling with here. In a standard exam, where every question is worth 1 mark, you can usually predict cutoffs within a super tight 1 or 2 mark gap because everyone is packed in so closely. But the MPSI exam, every single question is worth 3 marks. You just can't predict cutoffs with tight margins anymore because individual scores naturally jump by much larger intervals. If you get 1 more question right than the person sitting next to you, you're not 1 point ahead, you're 3 points ahead.
So the big takeaway here is that this 3-mark multiplier creates these massive, undeniable gaps between students. It leaves a ton of room for major fluctuations in the final cutoff. Seeing a variance of 5 to 10 marks in either direction, that isn't just possible, it's actually highly probable based on how the math shakes out. Which brings us to my favorite part, Section 4, predicting the unpredictable. Let's talk about the demographic wildcards that are absolutely going to shock people.
Let's start with gender participation. When looking at the survey data, something honestly shocking stood out. Women made up only an estimated 9% of respondents. Only 9%. Very few female candidates were actually seen taking the mains exam at the centers. And this exceptionally low level of competition means that female cutoffs will likely be unexpectedly low. I mean, when the applicant pool drops that drastically, the barrier to entry plummets right along with it. This severe lack of participation is exactly why analysts are begging candidates on the borderline not to lose hope. Based on the data, experts are anticipating literal miracles and totally unexpected surprises when the final lists drop. If you thought you were completely out of the running, but you belong to a low participation demographic, you might suddenly find yourself lacing up your running shoes.
And it's a very similar story with the police quota. Only about 16.6% of surveyed candidates actually belong to this specific category. Much like the female demographic, this makes the police quota a highly favorable avenue simply because the sheer volume of competition just isn't there when you compare it to the general applicants.
To really put that into perspective for you, within the sampled unreserved category, absolutely no candidate applying under the police quota scored above 450 marks. None. There is a definitive ceiling observed in the data for this group, which pulls the expected cutoff down significantly for anyone applying within it.
And all of this leads us to the ultimate wildcard, the intersection of these two statistics. Get this. Out of roughly 600 students surveyed, only one single female candidate was applying under the police quota. Her score? 392 marks. Because the competition level at this exact intersection is practically non-existent, her selection is virtually 100% guaranteed. This is the perfect example of why you absolutely shouldn't count yourself out just by looking at general averages.
All right, wrapping things up with Section 5, your next action steps. Here is exactly what you need to do right now.
Action step number 1, start your physical training immediately, like today. If your marks are anywhere near the safe zones we just talked about, do not delay. Step 2, keep analyzing your cutoff data. Use the resources out there, make sure you factor in that tricky 3-mark multiplier and estimate your standing logically. And step 3, anticipate unpredictable results. Keep an open mind, especially if you fall into one of those low participation demographics we discussed, where literal miracles are genuinely expected.
I really cannot stress this enough, guys. Do not wait for the official PDF to drop before you start getting in shape. With the new recruitment cycle pushing everything forward, if you sit around waiting until you see your name on the list, you will simply not have enough time to physically prepare for the trials. Endurance and strength, they're not built overnight. So, as we bring this explainer to a close, the data is absolutely clear, and the clock is undeniably ticking. The numbers show us where the safe zones are, and the wild cards show us exactly where the surprises are going to be. The results are coming before the 20th, that much is certain. So, the only question left is, when your name is called, will you be ready to rock?